Now, I'm really happy to welcome back a college football and horse racing expert that you've heard many times. You've seen him on ESPN's College Game Day and also listened to him on the Stanford and Steve and the Bear Weekly College Football Podcast. Really excited to have Chris Fallica back to break down this merry holiday of bowl games. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris, Fallica. Chris, how the heck are you doing, my man? Christmas is around the corner.
It is. I'm a little bitter these days. I'm a little upset off of NFL Sunday, and being that I should probably have a 2-game lead in the Circuit Invitational right now, but somehow managed to lose both the Jets and the Bucks on Sunday. Had I would have gotten both of those, I'd be up 2. I mean, at least should have gotten 1, I guess, if you want to be like take 1 and be happy. But to lose both of those 2 and be stuck in a tie now with Kazarian, and instead of up 2 with 3 weeks to play, I'm a little bitter. I know, by the way, I had those 2 in the Golden Nugget football contest as well, and I would probably be top 10 if I had gotten those 2, but instead, a big difference between 6-1 and 4-3 when you get down to the final weeks here. So we're a little bitter these days, but we're okay. It's okay. We'll look past it and we'll move on and we'll make the best of what we got the rest of the year.
Yeah, but there's a lot of craziness in the NFL. You could have been on the Patriots with that
exactly.
out of bounds deal, and or the Vikings where literally 2 fumbles were called fumbles on the field, and those should have been touchdowns. So there's a lot of badness going on in the NFL, and hopefully someday they'll address it. But it was a big weekend of sports, and I think you'll rebound. You got 3 weeks left. I think, you get a shot.
Yeah, we do, and I can see myself liking a couple of games this weekend that I'm sure aren't going to be attractive to a lot of people. So we'll see what happens, and
I'm sure. I'm sure it's going to go great because it is the NFL, right?
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly?
As Gil likes to joke, and we bet on this stuff. Some quarterback play has never been worse. Head coaching has never been worse, and officiating has never been worse. What can possibly go wrong?
It's been bad. I keep thinking that the officiating's never been worse. I remember 5 years ago, they had both wrong teams in the Super Bowl via the Rams and the Patriots when it should have been the Saints and the Chiefs.
and then what year was the Thanksgiving coin toss where they screwed up the coin toss on Thanksgiving? It was the Lions Steelers. Is that what it was?
I think it was a while ago. I don't remember the year, but I do remember the event. So it just blows my mind that they don't have anybody helping them out in the sky. I think that would just do wonders for the game. But they don't have to change unless competition happens. So it is what it is right now, my man. And right now we have a lot of big bowl games. But first, why don't you tell us what's going on with you a little bit lately, man? Big changes maybe on the horizon?
Yeah, no, we'll be headed to Fox on January 1st. I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, have an opportunity to work on some things there that I wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to work on at ESPN. Obviously, I'm assuming I'll still be a part of their college football show. But I've always said to people that the best thing that I was ever involved in at ESPN was working on the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa. So to potentially have the opportunity to work on Euros and a couple of World Cups down the road, pretty exciting. As I said to people, 27 years is a hell of a run at ESPN, and didn't bank on leaving, but it's weird how things just happen pretty quickly. So surreal still to be kind of headed out. I wish I obviously could have stayed on through the college football playoff, but it is what it is. And we got the Amazon games this Thursday and then next Thursday, and then we'll see what happens after that. So interesting and exciting time in the Fallica household.
Yes, absolutely. Very exciting. Congratulations, by the way. Just an amazing career at ESPN, and obviously transitioning to Fox, making a couple big steps forward. It sounds like in your life, your work life, getting able to work stuff you dream of working out. That's extremely important, And you're still going to be on Saturdays too, right? On the Fox show, right?
I'm assuming so. I would think that would be part of their plans. Once everybody gets back, the people who I need to speak with, they've all obviously been at the World Cup for the last month or so. So it's kind of a blank canvas right now. So I'm sure we'll figure some things out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're excited to hear what's going to happen. Hopefully we get as much media from you as possible. We always enjoyed your podcast with Steve and everything. Hope that doesn't stop. And
well, we got one more podcast with Stanford Steve on Wednesday the 21st, and I'm trying to get the doors the end cleared for the podcast, but I don't think that's going to happen in time. But no, I'm sure we'll figure something out in terms of a podcast next season as well. But unfortunately, the end of Stanford Steve and the Bear is upon us.
Unfortunately, but hey, we're looking forward to the new things and all your new ventures, and we're going to be following you, Chris, and very excited for the big transition after 27 years at ESPN. Just absolutely amazing. Well, we started late due to some of my own technology problems. I'm going to have to look into this old recorder. I'm almost in my.
I hope you need to. It looks like I literally just turned my head for a second, and somehow we're 1 minute and 8 seconds into the game, and San Jose State has already scored.
Oh,
so that's not good for the factory.
That's not
See
good.
what happened there. I don't have to play on the game. I just I love Eastern Michigan, so they're my squad.
I'm on the Eastern Michigan side. I have a nice little start on the 10-0 for College Bowl Mania, so I'm kind of hoping.
Well, that's good because you need. It sounds like you need some new equipment there and a good bowl season to pay for a new piece of equipment. So you keep doing this. So
going into my 7th year at the Oddsbreakers here, so yeah, I think it's time. Maybe my H4n external recording studio has to be upgraded. So maybe the College Bowl Mania, if I can keep doing well, something will happen there. Give me a little extra juice to do that. But thanks for bearing with me. But we'll get through these games, and we have some big games, and we're going to start this is our Christmas show right on Christmas Eve here, where it looks like in Hawaii, Middle Tennessee State will be playing San Diego State. And I wrote these lines down, and I kind of double-checked them yesterday, but these things move so fast. I'm still thinking -7, total 49.5, start time 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It is in the Honolulu, the Clarence T.C. Ching Athletics Complex, it's called. That's a tough word to say right there. But did you have anything in this game? I believe this line moved shortly after it came out.
Yeah, I actually thought it was Middle Tennessee plus the 7 would be the side I would look at there. I know the Aztecs offense has been a little bit better since the midseason coaching change, but still, they managed a field goal against Air Force, 14 against UNLV. And I think people still have this. The Mountain West as a league this year was down, or a little bit disappointing, I guess would be the more appropriate word. And I think people still have this vision of what San Diego State had been in years past, with a really good running game and a really good defense. But this team isn't like that. I mean, Middle got hot near the end of the year to get bowl eligible to be here. Yeah. So I would lean towards taking Middle plus the points. If you had to play this game going into it, and it's one of those deals where if early on in the game it appears that Middle's just there on a vacation, you probably have an opportunity to play out of it some. But I would take a look at taking Middle plus the 7 a little bit on the money line as well.
Yeah, it's getting big for a team that has no offense over the years, and San Diego State, they've always kind of done everything by defense. And whenever there was kind of an abstract score with them blowing out somebody, it's because they had some pick sixes or something, or maybe a special teams touchdown. It was never really their offense pulling ahead of anybody. I wonder what the motivation is in this Hawaii Bowl. There's always a lot of questions, maybe Middle Tennessee State's just happy to be there. That could be something. I would think that San Diego State's motivation might be a little higher just based upon the fact that they go there all the time anyway. When they play Hawaii, every other year.
Mhm.
And I think that you'd have to give them a little bit of an edge. I don't know how many people from San Diego State's going to go to Hawaii for the bowl. I would assume that they have a slight home field advantage here, Chris. But Rick Stockstill, 3-6 against the spread in bowl games. That's never been his forte, let's say. And Brady Hoke, 2-3-1 ATS. Neither of these coaches all that great. San Diego State strength of schedule 91st to Middle Tennessee State at 126, and San Diego State does have a slight net yards per play. But my power rating, Chris, it's right at 6.5. So I will lean with you slightly to Middle Tennessee State, just based upon my numbers. But I doubt I'm going to play this one, my man.
Yeah, I certainly can't fault. I promise you, there's going to be a whole lot of I don't think I'm going to be playing this one as we rip through some of these games.
Absolutely. There's a couple good ones that I know I'll be playing, and we'll get to that. We'll pass on any game that, for the sake of time, that we don't have a good grip on. And there's still a lot more moves that are going to be made. There's going to still be more kids holding out, possibly even coaching changes. So, keep your eyes on that thing. And some of these bowls are maybe a little bit less safe to bet on from an early perspective. But then we have Christmas, and there's just going to be NFL on Christmas, and that's fine with me because Monday, December 26th, we have the Quick Lane Bowl. New Mexico State versus Bowling Green. Bowling Green -2. Total is 47.5 in Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, Chris. And I do have a play on this one. Bowling Green has to be pretty excited. And I know it's like Detroit, of course, right? It's not like you're not rewarded so much for this bowl game being 83 miles away. But I do think the fact that they got to a bowl is going to give them some excitement. And Jerry Kill from New Mexico State has killed your tickets, Chris, when you bet on him in bowl games being 1-5 against the spread. So he doesn't seem to have a lot of motivation. Now, New Mexico State has a yard per play advantage over Bowling Green, but they haven't beaten anybody.
I was going to say those stats are probably a bit hollow considering the level of competition that they played.
Very hollow. Even Bowling Green's strength of schedule is 86th, and they're 139th. That means there's FCS schools who have had harder full year schedules.
It's hard to have a real confident opinion on these MAC teams in bowl games, given how they have struggled in recent years. And the other thing that would worry me a little bit, and again, I have no hard data to support this, but I always get concerned when it's one-way action across the row. I mean, New Mexico State opened up a 1-point favorite, and now you got pretty much 3.5s and 4s everywhere for this game. So it's all one-way action on Bowling Green. Again, that's more of a mental block that I have than anything else. So I will just have to sit there and root for you, my friend, in this game. I will have nothing on this game except a potential live bet if I'm sitting there watching and it looks like there's an opportunity to hop in.
Oh, there you go, man. I took Bowling Green early at the +1, so there you go. Maybe that gives me a little bit of a leg up. I like it to -2.5. I wouldn't take it at 3. So it's at 2 right now. I think that's fine for a couple stars. Let's move on to December 27th, the First Responder Bowl, Utah State versus Memphis. Memphis is -7, total 61.5 on ESPN. Gerald J. Ford Stadium in Dallas, Texas. Chris, you have the floor.
Good. Well, lucky. I don't know how you could really trust either of these teams, but I would assume that with all of the opt-outs that the injuries that Utah State has in this game, it's kind of hard to back the Aggies in this game. No, wouldn't this be Purdue, Memphis or pass here? Even though the number has kind of gone up to 8 in a couple of spots. There's still some 7.5s out there, but I see an 8 circa.
Yeah, let me just pull up old DraftKings here to see where they have this game. -7.5. Yeah, 61.5 is the total. Yeah, I mean that's flipping then for me. My power number is -7 right on it, Chris. It's kind of one of those games that's really ugly in my opinion. Probably a stay away, and there's going to be a lot of that. Um, I mean, Blake Anderson is 3-4 against the spread. Silverfield 1-1 against the spread. Nothing right there you can go by. Now Memphis has the big 1.37 net yard per play advantage. They do have the best unit in the field as their offense. They should be able to run all over Utah State, but it's hard to trust Memphis at laying points
Yes,
like this.
correct.
I didn't think that. I thought there was plenty of opportunities where we backed them and they completely faltered this year, Chris. And this could be another one of them too. So
Yeah, I kind of like San Diego State. I think this is another team that we're still thinking back to when Norvell was the head coach and they reached the New Year's 6 year. I think people still kind of have that feel like this is what Memphis is, and they certainly have taken a step back under Ryan Silverfield, who I guess will be back next year, even though there were some rumors about him not being back for next year. So maybe this looks like a Memphis team total over. Certainly, you don't want, if you don't trust the Memphis defense to keep a shorthanded Utah State team down. Maybe you do that if you don't want to lay points in this game. But yeah, not a great feel. I'd have a hard time backing Utah State though.
yeah, same here. Absolutely. Let's move on to another bowl that same day. Birmingham Bowl, East Carolina versus Coastal Carolina. Coastal now down to +8. Total is 63. This one's simple. Is Grayson McCall going to play? And if he does,
looks like he is, right?
It's what he says, but it's just so weird how you say you're transferring and going to play. Is that where we've come to? I'm going to leave the school, but I'm still going to play for you this last bowl game. I've never, it sounds like that change has kind of been coming into fruition lately, Chris.
Yeah, this look like it's East Carolina. Like maybe we'll get lucky and maybe people will buy the Grayson McCall hype as well. Maybe this will come down to 7.5 in some spots. And you hop in on ECU. I mean, look, this is Coastal Carolina. Their defense is terrible. And now you have the McCall deal. You've got their best offensive lineman, Willie Lampkin, out. Look, I mean, it's hard for me to get behind Coastal Carolina in this game, especially given how they finished the year. And I know McCall was beat up down the stretch, but this certainly looks like ECU or pass for me. And I'm going to wait and see maybe if this number comes down just a little bit.
I 100% agree. I actually made a bad number play when I thought McCall was out. It was a smaller play anyway, more like just kind of a nibble. But in a way, I completely agree now. Well, let's just wait till the hype comes in and McCall and grab East Carolina. I watched McCall play against Troy, and I know it was weathery, but man, if they play against anybody that sniffs defense, it could be a little tough for them. And
I like that word, by the way, weathery. I'm going to steal that from you.
Weathery, okay. Well, in fact, when you're on Fox, you make sure you give credit where credit. It's weathery, and I don't know. I probably should, and I did take a glance at the weather this morning, but anything cold, rain, it's bad for Coastal. That defense is just so bad. And ECU should be able to just run all over this team and control the clock and do what they want. So I think they should be able to win by double digits here. So 100% agreement with me on that one. Okay.
And maybe you do look at an alternative number in this game. And I mean, it was one of the things that I put out in my column on ESPN.com that if you like favorites, don't be afraid to lay an alternate line. If you go back the last 10 years, you've had favorites covering it for only 49.2% of the time, but 70% of those teams that covered beat the closing number by at least 7 points. So like that tells me there's an opportunity that if you do a favorite and you think they're going to cover, maybe lay a field goal or 4 points more, get some plus money, and if the game plays out that way, you're in a much better position. So maybe this is one of those games.
I love it. It's almost like the money line sprinkle, except opposite, front toward cover type way. It's like you get to another level because of the amount of variance in these bowl games is just so high. So that's where some of those alternative lines might be fun to play. Love it, man. Just grab. Yeah, there probably will be one at 9.5 and 10.5 to 10.5.
That's what I'm looking at right now. I'm gonna hop on DraftKings right now while we're chatting and just see if there is an example here. I don't know if there'll be a alt number on that yet, but let's.
I doubt it's yet. It's usually a day before.
Yeah.
On DraftKings when that happens.
Nothing up yet. Nothing up yet.
Yeah,
but,
and
for example, let's see. I'm sure there'll be something on today's Liberty when we're recording, we're taping this. Yeah, Liberty Toledo. Like Liberty is Toledo's a 3.5 point favorite. So if you want to lay 7.5 with Toledo, you want to lay 4 points more, you get plus 145 on that. So
right.
That's kind of what you're looking at. So you're probably going to get a nice plus money on laying 10.5 or 11.5 as opposed to 7.5.
Exactly. That's a great way to look at it. And there's a couple games that I'm actually going to bring that up, that idea up again, Chris. So thanks for throwing that out there. One might rhyme with Hammer. So we'll get to that one. The Camellia Bowl, Georgia Southern versus Buffalo. Buffalo plus 3.5 total, 67. This is in Crampton, the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama. Georgia Southern, I think their motivation is pretty high. They haven't been to a bowl in a while. They outdid my expectations. I didn't play the under on Clay Helton, but he seemed to do an okay job there, which was a big head scratcher, clash of culture, like we said before the season. Did okay, got to a bowl, had some, that big Nebraska win was shocked everybody almost, except for Nebraska fans, I guess. But Buffalo's motivation is probably medium. It's hard to gauge this team. And this is another MAC team, and it's 3.5. It's almost like my numbers say to bet Buffalo. I'm not super excited about it.
Yeah.
I think the two things I look at, Georgia Southern's got a matchup advantage on their passing offense, ranking 21st in the nation to Buffalo's passing defense at 95th success rate. But I'm worried that Southern might not be able to get their defense off the field. They give up 5.77 yards per rush, Chris, 127th in the nation. If just a decent game plan of running the ball comes from Buffalo, they should be able to control this. So it would be a small play at Buffalo with 3.5. Not super excited about any MAC team. What are your thoughts?
I actually did like Georgia Southern in this game. But Buffalo has had massive injuries and massive problems in the backfield late in the year, and who knows if those guys are going to play. They were extremely near miracle to beat Akron in that regular season finale to even get here. I actually like Georgia Southern in this game. I think whatever fans are there will be obviously in support of Georgia Southern. I know they got some deals on the with injury and transfer portal, but again, who doesn't? But I think the direction of Buffalo's season certainly was not a good one. They're here, but I know your numbers may say Buffalo, but the amateur psychology of picking this game, I believe, says Georgia Southern.
It's 300 miles away. Buffalo's a lot farther. Travelable, so it's not like it's an overnight.
Yeah, it's a healthy drive or a short flight.
Yeah. They're going to be driving out there, Chris. You know that. They ain't flying out there. Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Wisconsin versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State plus 3. Total is 43. Chris, I'm probably going to this game.
I was just going to say you're going to be going to see whatever's left of the Badgers, right?
There's not much left, and I don't remember a bowl game where more Badger transfers and opt-outs have happened in my lifetime. I mean, obviously, it's been going in this direction only the last 10 years, but it's I'm literally looking at guys that might not even make the team, much less
Right.
be on it with Fickle. I'm
Exactly.
going to go probably. It's a late game at 8:15. It's going to be real late on the East Coast out there by you. But I bet the under 51.5 when it came out. I laughed at it when it came. I was like, are you kidding me? It's 51
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
half.
Nobody's playing. Exactly.
And that thing tanked. Took about, at least 12 hours to get down to 48.5. And I was still like, that's way too high. And now we're
Now it's
sitting at
43.
43. It should be at 43, probably. My number's
You
40.
gonna buy some back there?
My number's 43.5, and I never buy back until it's positive EV past my number. Otherwise, I'm just giving up value. But it's I still think it could go under this, and I think it's going to go down though more, Chris. I think you're going to see 42 probably by the time the game happens. I know it's going to be in a nice controlled environment, so that works. There's no quarterbacks on either team with any
No.
real experience here. With Spencer Sanders being gone and Graham Mertz and their backup Chase Wolf is hurt. So I mean, if you look at the list, there's plenty of places. There's a list, this laundry list this long, but there is also some defensive problems for the Badgers. And Mekhi Becton, he is their big nose tackle that stopped the run. He's going to be gone. Nick Herbig, their best linebacker, he's going to be gone. So you wonder what Jimmy Leonard is going to come up with to stop this team. It's just going to be an ugly game, and you can see some turnovers. So that's why my number is a little bit higher at 43.5 rather than like something like in the Iowa total, which we'll get to later. But I'm not playing this game. I'm going to enjoy it, and if I can enjoy it and have a few beers, that's it. And you can't even use the stats. It's so bad, Chris. So
no, this is. The sad thing is these are typically two teams that you like to back in bowl games because typically the coaching staffs in the past have had their teams prepped and ready to go for bowls and had a ton of success. But if you're looking at bowl games this year as to ranking them in order of the game that you absolutely have no desire to bet and completely stay away from, it's this. I mean, you're an action junkie if you've got a great feel and put in a pre-flop bet on this game. Now, if you want to hop in live, sure, but I can't help you pre-kick. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially if you didn't get the good number of the total, then yeah, it's over right now. I would lay off this one. I will say that Gundy is 11-5 against the spread, though. So, I mean, that might say something for his motivation. Still, Wisconsin is the favorite, so that's interesting. Wednesday, December 28th, the Military Bowl, Duke versus UCF. UCF +3. Total is 62.5. Anything on this one, Chris?
I mean, I would like to see Duke win this game just because of the year that Mike Elko had. And kind of really went under the radar for most of the year. So I'm not going to have a play just because you've got issues at UCF too with John Rice Plumlee an injury. They have Keene, the other quarterback, is in the portal. So we'll see if Plumlee's able to go or not. Again, this would be a no play. Just consider the number points to UCF getting points here. Like that would be the side I would want to play. Obviously, with the majority of people on Duke in this game, but it's just hard for me to get behind UCF at this point with the unknown status at quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt. It is so unknown with Plumlee. And I wrote down this: if Plumlee isn't playing, then Duke in the under.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be a third stringer, not even the second string guy throughout the year. So with UCF's Mikey Keene in the transfer portal, that's literally what it is. Now you might be able to get it quick because it's definitely short if Plumlee isn't playing, and but if he means a good 5-6 points, I think, to the line in either direction. That's the way I look at it. The Liberty Bowl, Arkansas versus Kansas, and Kansas is +3. The total is 69. Chris, the first thing I want to ask you is which defense is worse? Arkansas has been pretty bad this year.
Especially and you have an Arkansas defense now without Drew Sanders and Bumper Pool and Miles Slush. It's like, all right, perfect, good, that'll work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the quarterbacks play, so that makes me think over. It's a big number.
Yeah, KJ's back, and the Kansas quarterback situation is good. Granted, Lawrence Arnold is beat up, but they've been without Hinshaw for a while. Again, I think this would be Kansas or pass. Obviously, you got Barry Odom gone to UNLV. You got Kendall Briles. His name's been out there for some openings. So I think the Arkansas the vibe that Arkansas is letting off right now isn't necessarily a great one, and one that I would be too interested in backing. I know Kansas's defense has been bad, but it feels like the season and the vibe around Arkansas has been more of the season's been a disappointment, and maybe they just want to get it over with, as opposed to Kansas, who they're going to be excited about this game, despite having a couple of injuries as well. And Kansas would be the side I would want to be on here.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. I think that Kansas, I kind of like Kansas and the over a little bit. The over. I think if Arkansas is going to cover it, I think it does go over. So I think I just don't see Kansas not putting up a ton of points with, like you just said, Bumper Pool, Drew Sanders, Miles Slusher, some of those Arkansas guys that are out here. I love how Lance Leopold's 4-1 against the spread in bowl games. Sam Pittman's only has that one time 1-0 against the spread, but it's motivation for me. I think Kansas is going to love to play an SEC team, and they're going to try to beat an SEC team. I think it's going to be big for them in the school. And Arkansas can't have that big of motivation. I think they had higher aspirations, and not a big bowl going to Memphis, Tennessee for them. Already kind of not too far from where they're at anyway. So I like the motivation for Kansas. I'll play Kansas at +3, but that thing's going down. So if you guys would like +3, I think you better grab it quick.
Yeah.
And even at DraftKings, it's still at 3 at DraftKings. Total is still at 69. Next game, we have the Holiday Bowl. Oregon versus North Carolina, another massive spread. The +14 North Carolina, total 72. Man, well, I mean, this this game's a mess. I mean,
how can you like UNC? How can you bet UNC? You would have thought that if they were going to kind of reverse their late season slide with the bad performances they had against Georgia Tech and NC State, it would have been in that ACC championship game with an opportunity to get to the Orange Bowl. Instead, they got rolled there. This is not a good defensive team. And now they've lost a bunch of guys who, in theory, were the best players on the defense that won't be on the field against Bo Nix and the Oregon offense. And Oregon's got some guys opting out as well. But I think Drake may have hit the freshman wall a little bit, and with no downs and the defense down a ton, it's hard. Look, I know this is a big number, and the immediate knee-jerk thought would be to take the Tar Heels and the points here. I couldn't do it. I would strongly consider, even though it is 14, I would consider taking Oregon and laying those points now that you've got some stability at quarterback with Dix going to play against a shell of a North Carolina team that probably, I don't want to say looking for a better word than fraudulent. They may have been maybe a little bit of fool's gold when they got really hot, and maybe Drake May is a Heisman guy. Maybe they're the team that could be. And I had a ticket before the year with North Carolina to win the ACC. So I think it was more because the Coastal was terrible, and I thought there was an opportunity for them to get to the game. And you're a big dog in that game, and now you have an opportunity to buy a little bit back if you want. So, and that's ultimately what happened. And I made a profit on the situation, but I just don't like the direction that the team is gone in right now. Too many opt-outs. I just don't get a good vibe about this game right now. I'm looking at laying the points with Oregon, and I see a 15 now with Circa. So shop around and see if you can get 14 and a half, if indeed you are interested in playing the Ducks.
Yeah, Josh Jones opting out for UNC, and I think a lot of players are just going into the transfer portal just to get NIL money and leverage it somehow. I'm starting to get that vibe, and maybe it's even been going on longer than I thought. I hear nobody talking about it, but you see some guys coming back like right after they do it. And I thought May kind of was tight. Maybe his side put out that news article that he might be transferring. So if you remember that story about a week and a half ago or something like that, that kind of threw everything off. I don't agree with Bo Nix playing this game personally. I think
despite the fact he is coming back next year, you still don't think he should play?
Well, I'm not sure if he should come back. I think he should go make his chance in the NFL, because I think that he had such a great year at Oregon. Somebody can kind of see something in him. Like he almost, the way he played almost reminded me a little bit of Kenny Pickett last year. Just kind of great timing for his receivers. He's also had that amazing legs, and a lot of people are looking for legs in the NFL now. I almost think that, trust me, I'm a college football fan. I wish these guys would play forever, but I'm just thinking about the kid's future. I almost think he should try his ropes in the NFL. Maybe he does get drafted after what he did at Oregon. I mean, that offense is number 1 or number 2 in success rate throughout the whole year. It was pretty phenomenal to watch. After that Georgia game, it just completely turned around for this team. Oregon's got the net yards per play advantage at 0.8. But I can't play. UNC is going to win this game. Watch, but I can't take.
Right. Imagine that. Last year they were the team that lost as one of the biggest bowl favorites. So they got upset by South Carolina as like a 14 and a half point dog, and now they're a 14 and a half point favorite. Or they were in the exact opposite position where this year. Basically what I was trying to say. You know what you were saying too about Nixon. It's something I was just thinking about too. And again, we could go on for hours, and I'm sure some people would go on for hours about this as well, is if playing in the Sugar Bowl, which the meaningless bowl game for Alabama, is good enough for Bryce Young and Will Anderson, who are going to be 2 of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft, what are we doing? If it's good enough for them, it should be playing in a bowl game should be good enough for anyone. Like, I don't know. I'm rooting for Alabama. I'm rooting for Alabama just because of that. Because I love the fact that they're playing in the game. They're finishing it out with their teammates. It shows a lot about the type of kids that they are. So I have no care about really anything, but I want to see them do well, and I'd like to see Alabama as a team reward for those guys playing. And I like Kansas State too.
We absolutely could debate this, and I've went back and forth in my head. Like when it first started happening, I'm like, playing your bowl game. It happened with Christian McCaffrey and one other guy. I was really upset about it. And I was thinking, like, you can't trust this kid. I was wrong, and I think that their future is so important. But what I will say, Chris, is I hope the NIL money does fix it and have these kids eventually tied some of that money to playing the rest of their season into the bowl game. I think that could be the savior of that. And kids playing in the 12th or 11th seed of the playoffs. I think you're going to possibly see a kid opt out of the playoffs, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But I'm kind of hoping that if they're getting compensated for it, then you play. You're working. You're a working person. That's what I'm looking for here eventually. So, I've always been torn about the subject, but I would hate to see an ACL tear of anybody that would want to go into the NFL and have their draft stock absolutely.
I get it. I totally get it. It's refreshing when you see it go this way, because everybody always assumes it's going to go the other way. So you get the rare example here now of 2 very high NFL draft picks who have chosen to play. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, we love the money isn't everything in your life thing. We love your pride, and stuff like that. I totally get that as well. That is 100%. Texas Bowl, Texas Tech versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss -3.5 total, 69.5. NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. Texas is a very big place. You would have think that
Yes,
Texas
it
Tech
is.
would have a home field advantage, but Ole Miss might be closer actually, looking where Lubbock is. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm talking myself into Ole Miss in this game. I think the way they finished the year had a lot to do with Lane Kiffin's name being thrown around for every possible job opening out there. And I think it clearly affected the locker room. I think this was a team, obviously, that you had Alabama on the ropes and came up short. And I think the way they lost that game kind of coupled with the coaching rumors, and I think that kind of affected their play at the end of the year. I think this is a really good opportunity for them to get back. I think they'll be able to run the ball at will against this Texas Tech defense, which, yes, it has been good as an underdog this year. Yes, they've beaten some teams at home, but I kind of like the Rebs here. I know we got Shuck back a quarterback, but this is a Tech team that I think could be had, and certainly looking at an Ole Miss team total over would be another way of playing this game.
Yeah, I like the team total over more or less. I think there's going to be points in this, especially because Texas Tech plays a high pace. It sometimes hasn't showed just due to the straight incompetence of the team that would crap out when they got close to the red zone. And you saw a lot of that this year with Texas Tech, but they also lost Tyler Shook for a long time. And now Donovan's going to be transferring, so that distraction's away. And they do have Tyler Shook here. My numbers say more towards the 3. So I think that my lean is to Texas Tech because of that. I will say that you're right, that Lane Kiffin stuff was a massive distraction. I hate to see that before the season's over. The media gets all crazy and he's got to answer questions he shouldn't have to be answering right now. And I think it's ugly and bad for the sport when that happens. But I will say that the Red Raiders at least have a solid pass defense, 24th in success rate. If they get run on, it could be all over for this team. Though Lane Kiffin is 2-3 against the spread in bowl games. So real interesting. I would assume motivation would be higher with Texas Tech, but I don't know. That's an interesting one. Any thoughts on that?
You thought the spread would be higher?
No, I thought the motivation would lie high with Texas Tech, higher than Ole Miss.
I think it will. I think it could. I think there might be some views in that locker room that they didn't necessarily enjoy, kind of maybe being hung out to dry, and maybe Lane was going to look to ditch them. But I think Ole Miss is better, and I think maybe there will be some motivation to kind of end the year on a positive note. Because look, I mean, they had a great start to the year. It came close to knocking off Alabama, and then it hung over. So I can certainly get behind Ole Miss here again. Amateur psychology for sure, but I would lean Ole Miss coming into this game.
All right, lean Ole Miss, and I lean Texas Tech. Slight disagreement here. Let's move on to the next game. We have Minnesota in the Pinstripe Bowl. Minnesota versus Syracuse at Yankee Stadium. I love that. Say Yankee Stadium. I remember when the Badgers played there a couple times. But this spread I wrote down was wrong because now I'm looking it's at 10. I wrote down 7.5. So that thing climbed up. Do you have anything to explain what happened here? What I missed?
I mean, it's basically Sean Tucker not being here for Syracuse. I mean, that's it. I still can't lay double digits with the Minnesota offense. It's probably going to struggle to score points as well as they did for a good part of the second half of the season. So this is a total pass for me.
Is Tanner Morgan going to play?
Who cares? I don't think they want Tanner Morgan to play. I think they're okay with the backup.
Oh, I didn't think the backup was as good. I think that he had a nice effort.
I think he's the future though, and I think that's how they're viewing it. And you got to remember, too, I mean, no Robert and I for Syracuse as well, in addition to no Sean Tucker. So, I mean, how many points are they really going to score in this game? Maybe Syracuse team total under would be a play in this game if you needed something.
Yeah, probably. And I laid 6.5 here with Minnesota. So now that it's at 10, I can't advise to do anything like that. I just think that Minnesota is going to run all over them. I see the rushing success rate 18th for the Gophers, and you saw that against Michigan State and some of the other teams. They just run the ball, they can pound it. And then Syracuse ranking 118th in opponent rushing success rate does not bode well for them here. I think that Minnesota can control the clock and win this game by 7+. But yeah, now you're getting to 10. The back door is open. That's probably where I would stay away. But I do like your team total under. This can be a disgustingly ugly game, being that the total is only 42 points, less than the Wisconsin total, Chris. That's old. That's low, man. So there you go. Cheez-It Bowl, Florida State versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma's what, plus 8.5 now?
I see nines. I see pretty much 9 across the board here.
Yeah, I screwed up early and took a play on Oklahoma. I talked about it last week.
Really? You took Oklahoma early?
Immediately, right when the lines came out. Well, here, I just thought that,
it was going to go up. I mean, because Florida State, I thought Florida State was that team that everyone was going to want to play in bowls. That's too bad.
It's too bad. It was a bad play, and we all make bad plays every once in a while. It was just kind of a opener play, and I'm usually 2 out of 3 at least hitting much better line value on openers than I give up. But I gave this one up because I didn't see a lot of these guys opting out for Oklahoma. I thought that Venables would have the motivation here, but he doesn't seem to care as much. And Florida State,
it happened to me as well. By the way, with the game too, I took 6.5 with Louisiana Lafayette, and now it's up to 7. So I mean, I got the bad end of the deal too, expecting some of those Houston guys not to play. So we'll see.
A lot of times I try to tease my way out of these things and just move the other side down.
Dig a bigger hole. Why not?
Well, it'll definitely dig a bigger hole if the other side doesn't hit. So it'd be something that you're sure you're betting anyway. But you have to. I just don't see how Florida State's going to lose this game the way they've been playing. But there's also some ugliness to it. Mike Norvell 0-4 in bowl games. ATS.
Yeah, I'm sure he's been a big dog in most of those games.
Yeah,
well. They have the Penn State Cotton Bowl. They were a big. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily rely on that. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true because he finally has a competent team here. Not too many,
and it's a home game, and it's an absolute home game. I mean,
yeah.
all the Florida State fans can come in throughout the state and
250 miles away from Tallahassee.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Florida State has fans throughout that state, in Orlando and Tampa and South Florida as well. So this would be one of those, like, if you're looking to play some money line parlays, or teasing college football, which is a train wreck and a debacle and unadvisable quite often. But I would be shocked if Florida State lost this game.
I haven't teased college football in years.
Oh,
this is the one. This is the only one I considered just to get out of the -7.5 or the +7.5 that I had. It was just kind of like, do I tease it? I'm just going to leave it alone, probably. But I do understand that people will be parlaying some of these things, and this is going to be
find an NFL favorite like the Niners, the 49ers against the Commanders, or the Chiefs against whomever, Seahawks or something, and
Titans, Texans.
Money line it with Florida State, and you're probably pretty good there.
Exactly. Alamo Bowl, Washington versus Texas. Texas -4 total, 67.5. But I had Brad on last week. Brad Powers liked Washington. I didn't touch the game yet, but it's an interesting game because it's close. It's in Texas, close to Texas and San Antonio. But I like a lot of things about Washington, man. I gotta admit, I like the direction this team's going.
Sure, absolutely.
I love their coach. I think that they're going to be extremely motivated to beat a Big 12 team. I think a lot of these Pac-12 teams that aren't, UCLA, USC jumping over the Big Ten are going to be pretty motivated this bowl season, because, they're kind of fighting a little bit for their integrity. And I just, I think Penix was amazing this year. I didn't know he had it in him there. And yards per play, what's so funny is about the same, 1.5 net yards per play. But you have to understand Ewers didn't play a little bit in this season. And I think they just had some really bad stinkers at Texas. And I guess at 4, my numbers, obviously power rating say Texas. Everyone's got Texas in their top 10.
Yeah, but how can you really trust that power rating with no Bijan Robinson, with no Rashawn Johnson, no Overshawn on? Like it's Don't you have to throw it? I mean, offensive line gutted as well, and I mean, look, we saw the depth that Texas had at linebacker when Overshawn was suspended for that first half of that Texas Tech game, and they really struggle. And you got your entire offense for the most part, and Robinson and Johnson out at running back. I think the number screams Washington. I agree with Brad Powers here. I think UW is the play here. You got Michael Penix who's coming back, and remember the great year that Indiana had. He couldn't play in that bowl game because he was hurt. So it's an opportunity for him to play in a bowl game on a big stage and cap off what has been a great year, like you said, for him and Kalen DeBoer. So I'm on UW here as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree. The only thing I'm waiting on is more if anybody from Washington's going to sit. It's not looking like it, and
no, which is great. Which leads me to wanting to play them, because it's showing that their team and their best players want to play in this game. So I get that that's an advantage right there.
Yeah, I got to write this down because this is only going to go one way, and that's against us, Chris.
And I think it already hasn't it? Didn't open at 5, or am I making?
No, yeah, it did, but it didn't hit the 3.
Actually, no, 3. Yeah. I see it opened the 3.5, and maybe it got to. I don't know. I thought maybe it was going to get. Yeah, actually, yeah. I see 6.5. I see a lot of 6. 6 got to actually got to 7. It looks like on December 5th.
Okay.
And now it's slowly come back down. So yeah, we missed the best number for sure.
Yeah, but the best number was before a lot of these holdouts. So
Correct.
This really, I mean, the fact that you're getting it over 3, an extremely motivated Kalen DeBoer team, you got to take the 4. It's going to 3. So that's the way I look at it here. I guess if I was concerned about it, it would be Washington's pass defense, but they should still be able to put up plenty of points.
Trust Quinn Ewers?
No, I don't trust him. No, that's why I faded Quinn Ewers a couple times in some good spots this year. One was against TCU. One was against they got slammed by somebody. I can't remember who it was, but I don't trust Quinn Ewers, and I don't trust Sarkisian. So there you go. Let's move on to the 30th. And as we get farther and farther away, the confidence level goes down and down. But there is a couple good nuggets that I have for some of these games. So starting out with the Duke's Mayo Bowl, NC State versus Maryland. Maryland -1, total 48. If you won this bowl, Chris, would you dump a big vat of mayo all over yourself? Would you?
Hell yes. You could do it twice.
Maybe get some bread and dip it a little bit, right?
I was gonna say maybe throw a little. Does Duke's make like a Dijonnaise? You could get some little Dijon mustard and mix it in there. That would be good.
It would be delicious. There you go. You'll be the biggest hoagie in the whole stadium right there, my friend. I enjoy the bowl just because it gets so corny out there. They do some fun stuff, and it's an interesting matchup. NC State versus Maryland. Maryland is -1. The total in this game is 48. So I think the motivation is going to be pretty good for Maryland. I mean, it's interesting to me that Talia Tungabaiola
Mm.
is going to play. You know, that's what I hear. I don't think he's going to opt out.
No one else is out. No one else is playing. No, it's all of his receiving core, Demas and Jarrett are both opting out.
Jacob Copeland is out, and yeah, Dante Demas, like you said. But NC State's got their own problems. You know, they got Devin Leary, and obviously hurt most of the year. But MJ Morris too, another quarterback there, is hurt. Devin Carter's in the transfer portal, one of the receivers. I was how impressed can you be with NC State for beating North Carolina, though? You know,
that was awesome. That was awesome. And this is a team that down to the fourth string quarterback or whatever it was in that game, the injuries that they've had, overcoming and beating North Carolina, that you wonder like if that was the climax, the epitome, the denouement per se of their season. Like that's the game, and now it's like, okay, whatever happens. But it is an opportunity for them to win another game. No Tim Beck might be a good thing on the offensive side of the ball, as you can maybe have someone else calling plays. It's a stay away from me, just because you really don't know what you're going to get from Maryland on the other side of the ball. I think there was another game that I said was Exhibit 1 on a game that I wanted absolutely no part of. This would be number 2.
I see a little bit differently. I like Maryland a little bit.
Okay.
I just think they try for their quarterback there, the fact that he's coming back to play. My power ratings kind of has it like that anyway without Leary. It was a fantastic win at the end against North Carolina, but at the same time, that was a little bit more about North Carolina and how bad they've been. So it's a short number at -1. I just think that they're going to win it here. And I do know that NC State's only 165 miles away from Charlotte, so they should have a little bit of a home field advantage here. But the yards per play wise, Maryland, 0.98 net yards per play over NC State. And that's on a schedule that's probably in the Big Ten East a little bit harder than what NC State had to go through this year. So I like Maryland, and I played it. So I like that. I'll give that one out for 2 stars at the -1. Next game, the Sun Bowl, Pitt versus UCLA. UCLA -3.5. Total is 58. I didn't make a play on this one. I'm kind of leaning one side, Chris. Maybe you can push me over or under.
I don't really like this game either. I mean, I would have been inclined to take the points with Pitt, but it's come down, and you're looking at what, the third string quarterback at best for Pitt. Cansey is out. I would think you're not going to get Charbonnet or DTR in this game either. This looks like a pass for me. However, I would still consider taking Pitt plus the points if I had to play the game. Just because if you look at a lot of the favorites that have come from Pac-12 teams in recent years have not done well. If you go back, and obviously Oregon State was an exception this year. So since 2016, Pac-12 favorites are now 5-13-1 against the number. So yeah, that's not very good. So I would take a look at maybe grabbing Pitt plus the points in this game and seeing what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish that Pat Narduzzi wasn't 1-4 against the spread because I would definitely be a little bit more inclined. But there's a lot to break down in this game here. Surprisingly, I didn't think that there was a lot of opt-outs for a team like this, and the line did crash down. And UCLA was at least 6 points of favorite here, and I think the strength of schedule is actually about equal. UCLA's got a 0.37 net yard per play advantage, but it's really the offense versus Pitt's defense. Now, Pittsburgh's got that amazing pass rush, right? They rank 4th in sack margin.
How is that going to change now with Cansey being out? That's a massive loss for that unit.
Massive loss, absolutely. So that's one thing that kind of kept me off Pitt. I have the lean to Pitt, but it's just can they replicate that? I don't like Narduzzi. I don't like the Pac-12.
Boy, you're just a bundle of fun of it. I don't like Narduzzi. I don't like the Pac-12.
I mean, I meant in this situation, of course.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Slovis, I mean, is he that much of a downgrade to Yarnell?
No,
I don't think so at all.
I don't think he is.
So maybe they get some motivation based upon that. Certainly a strong lean for me to Pitt still at plus 3.5.
By the way, we just had a big 4th down stop on the goal line by Eastern Michigan here.
Are they holding tough for us?
Yeah, 13-9. They're back in the game.
Okay. They're betting my early number that actually closed at that. It went down and up, kind of like a little seesaw action, but it minus 1.5 on my power ratings, right? So it's a strong lean for Pitt. I probably will play it, kind of talking myself back and forth here, as long as nobody else is sitting out. I am concerned that Pitt's other DNs here and maybe some linebackers could sit out for this game. So kind of that's what I'm thinking for this one. Move on to the Gator Bowl here. South Carolina versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame minus 2.5. The total in this game is 52. Now, this is at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, Florida. I think that South Carolina's motivation is going to be pretty high. I wrote medium high in this situation. They had a really bad start, but they made that bowl game at the end just with 2 massive upsets, taking out Tennessee and then taking out Clemson. It was just a fantastic finish for the Gamecocks. And then you got Notre Dame, who's been just Jekyll and Hyde this year, playing tough against Ohio State, and then losing to teams like Stanford and Marshall. And Marshall's a good team, as we know, for a group of 5 opponent, but still, Notre Dame was very strange. And then all of a sudden, Notre Dame beats Clemson, themselves by a lot. So Notre Dame was a little strange. There's going to be no home field advantage here. One thing I do know is when Marcus Freeman kind of jumped in last year for the bowl game, he didn't cover. He's 0-1 against the spread. Shane Beamer for South Carolina is 1-0 against the spread. Drew Pine now is in the transfer portal, but quarterback Tyler Buckner, I'm hearing, could play this game. Their big tight end, Michael Mayers, opted out, and that's probably something you'd expect, being that he's going to be the top 1 or 2 tight ends drafted. So not terrible for Notre Dame if Buckner plays. So South Carolina, they're also got some opt-outs. A couple wide receivers are injured. They have 2 running backs and Marshawn Lloyd that's going to be gone, and Christian Beal-Smith. But the truth of the matter is, for me, there's a lot of opt-outs on South Carolina's side, but I can't trust Notre Dame without a quarterback. If I get some great information early and I find out that Tyler Buckner is going to be back, I will definitely lay it with Notre Dame. And I think I would lay it all the way up to -4, maybe even a little bit bigger. But this spread right now is kind of perfect at -2.5. Just not sure what's going on and which direction it's actually going to go at. So, my thoughts are certainly leaning with Notre Dame on this one. Chris, any thoughts on this Notre Dame, South Carolina? I kind of just think it happens. If Tyler Buckner can all of a sudden play, I would definitely slam Notre Dame. Chris? Yep. I think Chris has me muted here. Chris, any thoughts on the Notre Dame, South Carolina?
Why can't I hear you?
He must have turned me down here. Notre Dame, South Carolina is just waiting on Chris here. The total's at 52. I would think that the total's probably a little bit too high. Notre Dame does have a good defense, and they tend to stop the pass pretty well, as you've seen when they played North Carolina and when they played Clemson. Let's move on to the Arizona Bowl, Ohio versus Wyoming. Wyoming is +1. The total is
No, I can't hear you.
I think that I think that Wyoming happens to be very good against the spread. Craig Bowl for Wyoming is 11-3 against the spread, and I would say Wyoming's motivation is probably medium. I'm not sure what these kids are going to do against a MAC team. The problem with Ohio is obviously their quarterback, Curtis Rourke, was injured for Ohio. So I am a little bit concerned about that. I do know with Wyoming, Titus Swen, one of the running backs, is in the transfer portal. Joey Brash is in the transfer portal as well. So I do wonder a little bit about that. Wyoming lost all their running backs and their best wide receiver and defensive end. So, I'm wondering who's going to run the ball now that I'm seeing this. Every single running back is out. I didn't really get a chance to dig too deep into this, but I can't really bet Wyoming if they don't have any running backs and anybody that hasn't even carried the ball, even if it's against a pretty bad Ohio team. So, I actually have probably no lean in this. I do think that Craig Bowl is so good at bowl games, though. If I had to bet it, it would be Wyoming, but I'm probably going to be staying away from this one as it is. Let's move on to the Orange Bowl, Tennessee versus Clemson, and Clemson is -5.5. The total is at 63.5. So at 63.5, that's a pretty high total for any Clemson game, but obviously it's against Tennessee that had a high flying offense. So let's see here. Chris, are you available?
I got Clemson at the open, just assuming that a lot of opt-outs were coming from the Tennessee standpoint here, and obviously no Hooker, and that Clemson was probably going to be better off the quarterback position with Klubnik in there. So I got Clemson at -4.5 on this one. I know obviously the number has gone the right way. Clemson obviously has some defensive guys who are out, but at the same time, I think the way they've recruited and going against a Tennessee offense that was very short-handed, I'm happy with my position on this game.
Okay, so Dabo Sweeney, 12-6 against the spread, and so he's been a fantastic bowl coach. The thing for me, Chris, is I trust Dabo a lot more than Heupel, but we saw that big blowout with Tennessee against Vanderbilt. Their quarterback Joe Milton, he didn't have to do anything in that game. It was all Tennessee's defense, wasn't it?
Sure. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, obviously, Vanderbilt and Clemson, two different animals. But sure, no, I look, the year that Tennessee had, it would be nice to see them finish out the year and play well. Maybe if this thing gets back to 7, there might be an opportunity to take a little bit back on Tennessee. But yeah, I'm like I said, I got the number at the open. It doesn't look like it's going to go back to 7. What did I miss, by the way? By the way, of course, it was Amazon, which of course at this time of the year is not an irregularity. But I need to get those before my wife gets home from work. It's actually her Christmas present, so I need to go grab it. So we're good.
No problem. We obviously a little bit of technical difficulties with the communication on StreamYard, but just the Notre Dame one. And I said that if somehow their quarterback can come back and play from that injury. I heard whispers
that rumored to potentially play.
I did see a rumor, but I don't know how true it is. I saw that it's possible that he can come back. I'm thinking the no. I'm not touching it unless he comes back, though. Mayer's out, and so that's kind of what I was going. And then I said the Wyoming-Ohio game. Wyoming doesn't even have a running back in this game, Chris. So I stayed. I can't bet them. Craig Bowl is fantastic against the spread at 11-3, though. Let's move on to the Music City Bowl, Iowa versus Kentucky. And I knew I'd get to this disgusting game. A total in a bowl game of 31.5. I mean, that is just putrid. It is one of the lowest. You'd think that Army was playing Navy or something in a game. And even that total was higher at 32.5, Chris. I mean, who do you trust more? I guess it would be Kirk Ferentz at 11-6-1 in bowl games. Mark Stoops is 3-2-1 himself. Kentucky's without the two running backs, Rodriguez and Smoke, and then Will Levis. Yeah, and Levis. But, does Iowa need a quarterback? Because I didn't think that Padilla was good.
No. Quarterback just gets in the way at Iowa. Just
punt the ball.
Just snap it to the running back, and maybe every now and then attempt a pass to and Laporte is not even going to play. So yeah, I know quarterback just that's a problem.
Yeah, you don't want any interception.
Even though Ferentz says that he is going, that Laporte is going to play, we'll see. If he does play, obviously that's a big deal. And again, like we were talking about before with Alabama. Oh, by the way, Eastern Michigan is taking the lead. Go Eagles, EMU. You got all those guys, Campbell and Moss and the rest of Benson and Merriweather playing for Iowa. That's a good sign. I actually like Iowa in this game. I know they've been a punchline a majority of the year. I actually played Iowa at the Open, obviously assuming Levis wasn't going to play. And so I have Iowa +3 right now, and now they've crossed over. So yeah, that was right at the Open.
Nice.
Iowa's 2. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I say Iowa money line probably in this game. I don't even want to lay the 2 with 31 points. This could be just down by 2 field goal. If you like Iowa, take the money line here in this situation. I trust Iowa more. And just punt the ball on first down, and you're going to win. You're going to get a pick 6 or something like that. Joey Labus has never attempted a pass in college football, and he's quarterbacking for Iowa. So just want to throw that out there. Now for the Sugar Bowl, Bama versus Kansas State. Kansas State's still +6, total 56. I, like you said earlier, Chris, very appreciative that Bryce Young and a lot of these guys are going to be playing. Jahmyr Gibbs, Will Anderson, Malachi Moore, Jordan Battle. It's wonderful. And it's great for us because I think Alabama's a great team. Alabama has a 1.4 net yard per play advantage over a team that's in a lesser conference here. I mean, when I was talking about alternate lines, I slammed this at 6, and I don't know why it didn't go up any farther. I have Alabama -11 for my numbers. This is my biggest discrepancy. Wow. Well, it's my biggest discrepancy on all the bowls. I mean, how much worse is Alabama than the Ohio States, Michigans, and I mean, they're still in that upper echelon. I still have Alabama as a top 4 team, and they're not really. Look, I remember when everyone, the 2019, the bowl game versus Michigan. Oh, Alabama's not going to be motivated. They missed the playoffs. Well, guess what happened? They beat the crap out of Michigan. Nick Saban shows that he can motivate his team when he's not in the playoffs. And I think they're going to kind of live with that. I love Alabama -6, and I might take an alt line at -10, -10.5. What are your thoughts?
Well, if they are indeed motivated and care about playing, they are better. Now, look, the Alabama offensive line has struggled at times this year, and Kansas State has shown they can get after the passer. But I get the feeling in this game that how much is Kansas State really going to be able to score? I mean, Deuce Vaughn's a problem, but does Kansas State have the passing attack to be able to really hurt Alabama in this game? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. Will Howard did good this year. He was a good game manager, and they relied on their defense. You saw that game against TCU. It's a little bit about TCU choking a little bit, throwing a couple picks early in that game, getting behind the sticks, and another quarter in that game, TCU probably wins it. I just think the talent is going to completely overpower Kansas State. And I think Kansas State's going to be motivated, but I also think Bama's going to be motivated just to show who everybody is. I'm sticking with Bama, which brings us to the Fiesta Bowl. Michigan versus TCU. TCU +8, total 58. This is right down here at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. There's really no home field advantage, but I will say that Michigan has more alumni and probably more fans than a school that has 6,000 or 7,000 undergrad students, right? Michigan, obviously, the Blake Corum injury, and the tight end Colston Loveland's a little bit hurt. But what I will say is that the Blake Corum injury, I'm not even sure that he's better than Donovan Edwards the way that Donovan
No, I
Edwards.
don't think he is. It hurts their depth and it hurts the ability to rotate a fresh back in and out all the time. I mean, as long as Edwards is healthy, they're fine. It does affect their depth, but it's not a drop off for the first few carries that Edwards is going to have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not as big as a drop off as people like say in the media. I think his 7.5 yards per rush kind of says that. Michigan's the most experienced team. They were in the playoffs last year. I trust that over TCU kind of just getting in here. I think TCU accomplished their goal to get in. My numbers have Michigan -11, Chris. I didn't bet it yet because I still think more TCU money's going to come in.
Touchdown, Eastern Michigan.
Oh my God! They're piling on the point. They were just down 13-0 too.
Yes, they were down 13-0. They blocked the extra point, got 2, and they are on the 3 straight touchdowns now, and they're about to be 23-13. Look at Chris Creighton fired up there. Beautiful.
I'm about to turn it on, my man. Michigan. Like I said, I'm probably going to bet them, but I like the first half better because I don't have a ton of trust that Max Duggan's not going to work his magic. And I think that Michigan first half -4, -4.5 is more trustable for me. They're going to come in. They've been here before. And you don't have to worry about the back door as much if you just make a first half play, Chris.
I think that's a little concerning. Most people that do this game probably could work out to be a good thing, where most people are just assuming that you have Michigan, who has dominated second halves in recent weeks. And as the season has gone on, how that offensive line kind of leans on you and the running game gets going late and takes over, and how that pass rush and that defensive front is giving teams problems in the second half as well. So that's a little contrarian, I think, to a lot of ways people are looking at this game. So I'll hope that works out for you. My head says Michigan, and I know it's a massive public play. Everyone's on Michigan laying the points because I don't think TCU is any good. I'm probably not going to play the game for any like real significant play. I mean, I'll obviously watch it and again maybe look for an opportunity to hop in, maybe look for a Donovan Edwards prop maybe to play over or something something along those lines. But my gut says Michigan does win, and I guess if you're in one of those pick and pools and you had to circle aside, I would lean towards Michigan. But TCU's been doing it all year, and I think look, they've got some players on the offensive side of the ball that I think are better than a lot of players that Michigan has seen in the Big Ten. And you just got to remember as well, this is a team that Illinois was right in the game with for a while. Maryland hung around. Like Michigan has had some games where teams have been kind of hanging around, and obviously they went out and they played a great fourth quarter in Columbus and then pulled away from Purdue late. So I would think Michigan is the team to get through here, but it wouldn't surprise me if TCU hung around like they have all year. So I don't have a strong feeling
Yeah, I think that I just see that Michigan's defense is just so much better than what TCU's faced. And TCU, get the Big 12, I guess Kansas State was the best, and they give them trouble. Well, Michigan's a lot better, ranking 3rd in EPA on defense, 8th in success rate. So that's where I think Michigan's going to have a say, and it's going to be in the first half because Michigan hasn't been in the playoffs and they haven't. So that's kind of where I like it. They're still remembering that beatdown they took from Georgia, I think, last year. They don't want that to happen again. Let's move on to the Peach Bowl then. Georgia versus Ohio State plus 6.5, total 62. I am fascinated, Chris, in the fact that the lines makers got this right at 6.5, and this thing didn't move, did it?
Nope. No. And it hasn't moved, and I think you're seeing a ton of Georgia money. It's pretty much been one-way action, which doesn't surprise me. I think obviously you have the school of thought out there. You saw what Ohio State happened to them in the fourth quarter of the Michigan game. You've got the injuries and the opt-outs by Ohio State in this game. I think there are a lot of people that think Ohio State will not be able to stand up against Georgia. So I think and just think about where we are. I mean, going into that Ohio State-Michigan game, there were people who may have power rated Ohio State right with Georgia or very, very closely with Georgia. And now you're looking at, if you like Ohio State, you're in a great situation because you're getting more points than you thought you would have with a team that may now be a bit more motivated and a bit more out to prove the world that they're not as bad as they looked in the fourth quarter of that game against Michigan. So I would strongly consider taking Ohio State plus the 6.5 in this game on that basis alone.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, something's wrong with Ohio State. But I will say that there is no public power rating out there, Sagarin, Team Rankings, ESPN's FPI. There's nothing that says this is a 6.5 point spread, right? Unless they're giving Georgia like 4 points home field or 5 or something crazy. Sure. Georgia should have a slight home field, being that they play there a couple times a year. At Mercedes-Benz Stadium right there. But there's something wrong with Ohio State, and I had to adjust them down farther than a lot of the other.
There may be.
I think it's the fact that, and it almost showed a little bit the first game. I think that CJ Stroud gets a little bit flustered when he doesn't have a clean pocket. And I was rating Ohio State always this whole year on the fact that Jackson Smith and the Jigba was eventually going to be there. And and they get through the bad teams with Marvin Harrison and some of their other skill positions. But now that their best running back and Travion Henderson is not there, and Jackson Smith Majigwa just kind of leaves, which was strange. Now he says the doctors, but that's just it's just a smelly situation there.
I'm glad you said Jackson Smith and Jigba just kind of leaves.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. A couple other guys are banged up. I just think I'm waiting on this thing. I don't see why this line shouldn't go down, but it's awfully strange to me that it didn't, based upon a lot of people and their thoughts on Ohio State and the power ratings and where they're supposed to be all year. I have Georgia -7 on my number, so it's not like I'm playing this game.
Oh, so you've got it. Yeah. That number. That number says it. I mean, you would expect Ladd McConkey to play, but I think the question is going to be whether Warren McClendon plays on that Georgia offensive line, which would be an issue with Tuiomalo on the Ohio State front. But I think it will be an interesting matchup for the Ohio State defense versus the Georgia offense. How are they going to contain Bowers and Washington? I mean, those are matchup nightmares at the linebacker position. You saw in the bowl game a couple of years ago where Ohio State got caught with Cuff Borland on Devontae Smith at times, and so some terrible matchups. So that could be an issue. So we'll see. But I just think the number is a little bit of an overreaction to what we saw at the end of the year, and maybe Georgia comes out and Georgia takes care of business and blows them out, like a lot of people expect them to. But I'll take Ohio State here plus the 6.5.
Yeah, I think Stetson Bennett had a good argument to make a Heisman, being that he didn't give up any games. He didn't. No, there's no games that they lost in Georgia because of Stetson Bennett. So even though he doesn't have the flashy numbers, it's also because they're coasting the whole second half of every single year game. So I almost think they might use that motivation. He didn't get the Heisman a little bit here too. So my number 7, not like I'm running, but I will be talking about some props next week in both of these games. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun looking at some of the props in the playoffs. Another angle to look at. So we have a few minutes left. Let's blow through these. Illinois versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State +1. Obviously, the tragedy, massive tragedy that happened to one of my favorite coaches in Leach. It still sucks. I still I'm a little bit bummed about it. College football took a massive hit because of it. But I think that makes Mississippi State's motivation extremely high. But, the thing about Illinois is I bet them pre-flop, and I did get them as a dog a little bit. Illinois does have a 0.78 net yard per play advantage. I know that Mississippi State's got a little bit more of a strength of schedule for sure. But I think Illinois' defense is the best unit on the field, but there's still guys that might sit out for Illinois. Their running back Brown might sit out. A couple guys on defense might, and Bielema's trying to rally.
I think Witherspoon has already announced that he is out, as well as Sidney Brown. So they're down some guys in the secondary.
Okay, well there you go. So there's already guys kind of falling to Illinois. Right now, I could just give you a lean to Illinois until it all comes to fruition, but we've got a couple weeks before we have to worry about this game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would have a hard time playing this game right now, just given everything that's going on. And remember too, Brian Walters is leaving for Purdue as well, so the Illini will be losing their defensive coordinator as well. So this isn't a game that I'm looking to get involved in right now.
Well, if you thought the 14-point spread was bad for North Carolina, look at Purdue here against LSU, Chris. Another
last man standing.
Last man standing. Maybe the spread should be 28. I mean, it's so funny. You think about these spreads, and you're like, if this spread was 21.5, would I still not take Purdue? I don't know. It's just they lost Jeff Brom. Brian Brom is going to interim coach. Yet, Purdue doesn't have their quarterback, which was pretty much everything for this team, Aiden O'Connell, right? I feel that that's a massive hit for a team that can't run the ball. They play no defense or very little defense, and without their quarterback, and then you have LSU that's, kind of on the up. Brian Kelly is a bad bowl coach, 5-9 against the spread, but Jaden Daniels is supposed to be healthy. They did lose a couple guys like BJ Ojulari, their edge rusher, and their best cornerback, and Jay Ward. But you expect the 4 or 5 stars that they've been recruiting all over the past 3 years to step in almost like an Alabama situation. I think the spread is fine at 14, but it's just funny doing that mental exercise, asking yourself, what number would it take for me to bet Purdue?
Yeah, I think a lot of people asked themselves that same question last year. Remember Tennessee was everybody's bowl darling in that game against Purdue, and that number moved, I think, like a touchdown as well, and the Boilermakers wound up winning the game outright. So this is the second straight year now Purdue has been a opt-out central, and the number has moved against it. But yeah, I'd have a hard time with no O'Connell and no Jones and no Durham. Like it's hard to like Purdue. It's almost like that. Hey, Drew Brees is going to be a celebrity volunteer assistant coach for this game. I think that's more of a trying to create a positive publicity spin than anything else. Hey, we're going to get our what, but hey, at least Drew Brees is going to be on the sideline. So yeah, I certainly couldn't take Purdue in this game, and you would assume that Brian Kelly in year one at LSU would like to go out and put a big number up on the board to finish off what has been a very successful first season in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think so as well. Let's move on to the the Cotton Bowl. Sorry, USC versus Tulane. Tulane plus 2.5, total 62. USC's motivation, I don't know where it fits. I have to say it's got to be somewhat low. They blew their chances at the playoffs and the Pac-12 title in one game. What sucks is now they're in a situation where they can be embarrassed against a group of 5 school like Tulane, who should have extremely high.
Well, do something about it then. Well, if you're in a position to worry about being embarrassed, go out and play. Go out and tackle. Go out and stop the run, and do something about it. I
They don't
mean,
know how to
but you're
tackle.
right. This, well, as the second half of the Pac-12 championship game showed, that is correct. I mean, is Caleb Williams going to be healthy enough to play? That's a concern as well. And this is not like a shitty Tulane team at all. This team went to Kansas State and won. They have a good defense. They have a good running game. They've got a quarterback in Pratt who is experienced and can do some things. It's the opportunity of a lifetime for these kids. Yeah, what I will say, yes, it is a. You said in a position to be embarrassed or whatever. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't for USC. If you lose, it's up group of five, motivated. We had nothing to play for. Caleb was injured, or defense sucked, or okay, you go out and you beat them. It's like, yeah, it's Tulane. You're supposed to. So from that standpoint, yes, it is a hard situation for USC to deal with. But you got to just go out and play and act like it's a game you want. But I'm on Tulane here. I have thought the USC defense has been garbage all year. I thought their turnover luck has been obviously massive all year long, and finally they came back and got them in the Pac-12 championship game. But with how poor the defense is, how badly they have failed to stop the running game, this is not the type of team that you want to be going into with a subpar rush defense. So yeah, I'm gonna take Tulane plus 2.5.
Yeah, I like Tulane here. I'm waiting on it. I think I can possibly get a better number based upon Caleb Williams fans. I think that Voorhees is not going to be able to play this game,
Which is big.
It's massive, and their center Nayland, he's not going to be able to play. So it's like those two key cogs in their offensive line is not going to play. That's not good. Even their linebacker that had 43 tackles that was in the rotation, Raylan Goforth, is not going to play. He's going to go in the transfer portal. There's just a lot of bad situations here, and you might see some other guys opt out for USC, like Addison and a couple receivers. Right, it's very possible that Taj Washington might not play too. I mean, they might go to the draft. He's eligible, so I wonder about that. But I'm greedy. I have no reason to rush into this, so I'm hoping to get a 3, and we'll see what happens.
Exactly
Chris.
Right. We have what? We have 11 days.
Yeah, we have 11 days.
12 days. Yeah.
That's right. Rose Bowl, Utah versus Penn State. Penn State +2, total 52. Both motivations should be very high. It's the Rose Bowl. Utah was in it last year in that awesome shootout against Ohio State. That thing went over by halftime. James Franklin 6-4 against the spread. Kyle Whittingham, Utah 10-5 against the spread. Penn State lost Parker Washington to an opt-out and their best corner in Joey Porter Jr. But Utah's in the same situation, losing Dalton Kincaid, which is their best pass catcher at the tight end, and their cornerback, Clark Phillips. So both of these guys are with their best corner and their best pass catcher. The funny thing about this, even though Penn State's got a slight 0.4 not yet yards per play, who do you trust more, Whittingham or Franklin or Clifford or Cam Rising? I think I lean Utah in both of them.
Yeah, I would agree. And it just sucks because there's the second year in a row. Like you and I both grew up to be in the Rose Bowl. Always had this sacred persona and aura around it, and now you got a bunch of guys opting out for the Rose Bowl. You had it last year with Ohio State. Yeah, how good do we really think Penn State is? Like that. That's. I mean, you look at here they are. You look at their record, and obviously they've won some games and put forward some good performances. But how good are they really? They got blown out by Michigan. They lost to Ohio State. I know they were in the game and then totally collapsed in that fourth quarter against Ohio State. Like what else? I don't know.
Well, Chris,
they'll be excited about playing, that's for sure.
Yeah, but they're not that good, and it's a great point. But one thing that Utah's not good at is stopping running quarterbacks. So against Florida, you saw that. Against Richardson, against DTR and UCLA, against Oregon, they lost, and that was with a very injured Bo Nix. And USC was running all over them with Williams until he pulled his hamstring in that first quarter, second quarter, and then it all went to hell from them. I like the over. I think over 52. I took it at 48.5. I think it's still way too low. I don't like either defense. I think that each team should be scoring pretty easily. I have to pick Penn State to win this game. Or sorry, I have to pick Utah to win this game because I trust Whittingham and I trust Cameron Rising over Clifford. But I think Clifford also runs for a few touchdowns. And I think this total is way too low, Chris.
Yeah, I like your overthought in this game, mainly because I think there might be maybe you're going to get a little bit of a reduced number. Just because people are going to see no Parker Washington, no Kincaid, no Thomas, but Utah's deep at running back. I like that they're fine, and obviously Rising can do plenty on his own. So yeah, that might be the way to attack this game because I really have no super feel on the side here.
Yeah, I think so. I think the total is the best. But if you're in a pick'em contest, like many of us are, I would definitely pick Utah in the contest. So real quick, who is going to be in the national championship game, and who do you like, Chris?
I guess it's going to be Georgia over Michigan like it was in the Orange Bowl last year. I don't think Georgia's going to have an easy time with Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes will be in it. I do think Michigan will power past TCU, and I think the same problems that Georgia presented to Michigan in last year's semifinal will be the same problems that Georgia presents to Michigan again this year, and I think we're going to get a repeat national champ.
All right, well, that's very possible here.
Which isn't very daring or bold or whatever. But
way to go out on a limb on that one.
Yeah, I know exactly. like there is a small part of me that wants to put a little on Ohio State to win the national title. I think they're around plus 360 or so, somewhere around there. Like I can, but like is.
Well, I took plus 600 back in May last way when the odds came out, and so at least they made the playoffs for me. But
that's the thing. I got some cross-sport parlays alive at Circa where I have Georgia, and I think Ohio State. I think is they might be 550. I think on the cross-sport ticket. So as long as the Georgia Ohio State winner wins the title from a personal standpoint, I'll be okay. As I'm live probably to a bunch of teams in the NFL to win the Super Bowl as well, but. So I'm thinking if Ohio State plus 350, 360, now you're probably just better off playing money line against Georgia and then rolling it over against Michigan maybe again in the I guess they'll be a favorite against Michigan, but it won't be too dramatic. So you might just be better off just playing Ohio State on the money line against Georgia and then seeing what happens if you look at it.
I mean, they're plus 200 in this situation. A money line rollover for Ohio State's better than the plus 300 that I probably had. It's like
exactly.
And so it's kind of interesting to see how Georgia just didn't skip a beat, because when I took that, I thought Georgia would skip a beat. I thought it may be Bama, but obviously you saw the season and Georgia's awesome. I have Georgia versus Michigan, and I think I'm going to have Michigan covering. I think it's going to be a 1-score win. I have Georgia winning by 3 points, and just for the hell of it. I mean, it's not like we know what's going to happen, but I think Michigan's going to fight their ass off in this game, play a little bit over their heads, and just kind of give Georgia a little bit of problems here at the end, but I think that Georgia wins it all as well. So that's what we're going to look forward to, Chris. And we are out of time, my man. Thank you so much for putting up with all my technical difficulties and fun that we went through, but for about 25 minutes before the show. And I'm real excited.
Billable hours just went up, my friend.
Way up. Billable hours.
The law firms of. Oh, by the way, it's 30-13 in favor of Eastern Michigan as we're about to head to halftime.
Oh my God, it's a blowout. Well, we should have just bet the over. That's what we should have did. There you go. It's at 43
exactly
already. Well, man. I tell you, I'll pay you in cheese. How about that for that extra half hour?
Who doesn't love cheese?
I really appreciate
it. A nice Gruyere can never
Oh, I'm sure, man. I'm sure. But I do appreciate you coming on all year and,
of course, my pleasure.
Talking to our guests or talking to our listeners and all our viewers and everything. It's just so awesome that you're able to share at the Odds Breakers. And I just want to say how appreciative we are to you. And we wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas this year.
It's my pleasure. And I certainly love talking to you as well. We always seem to have a good time teaming up here and throwing ridiculous thoughts and opinions stats and numbers and picks and whatever back at each other. So pleasure is mine, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas as well.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll be texting about our craziness throughout the week. So if anything pops up, you'll be hearing from me, Chris. All right. Well, that is our show. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to tweet us at theoddsbreakers.com. Enjoy the rest of your week and go get some winners.